A pleasant day and welcome to your program Law and Order. As you all know, you might have legal problems and questions dealing with law, and with the program Law and Order, we are giving solutions for you all to survive in this environment. So ladies and gentlemen, in our previous episode, we discussed about entrepreneurship and business. So as a continuation of that particular episode, we're conducting this related with the technology aspect. So to do the honors with us, we do have Mr. Prashant Lal, the Vice President's Counsel in our studios. Thank you very much, sir, for joining with us with our second episode in this discussion. To initiate our discussion, we discussed entrepreneurship and business, giving advices to young entrepreneurs to not to let themselves in trouble. And in this episode, we are going to focus about the information and technology aspect. So simply, IT, or rather the technology, is not simply a computer or a smartphone. How can you elaborate on that technology aspect when it comes to young entrepreneurs as a thorough gentleman having a great expertise on this particular field?
Exactly. Charita, it's a very important area because we are talking of, you stressed the point that it is about basically a young entrepreneur. Now, young entrepreneur means they are born very recently, and they call it in human resource that I'm getting involved in most of the companies. I am involved with HR work in corporate as a director. Now, there you find it is a generation Z that is now we employ. Now, they only live for this moment, and generally they are totally IT savvy. When you contrast, they totally get information, they totally get ideas, they totally implement on the IT, and that's why they live this moment. So in that kind of a context, if you are talking of a young entrepreneur, as you stressed, it is very important that we discuss about IT, because without IT it is not so. And also COVID-19 pandemic brought us a very interesting phenomenon. Now, a lot of people today work at home.
Yes.
Young people, entrepreneurs work at home, and we also encourage that, because as a corporate, we prefer them work. Some jobs we prefer them working home, because for the simple reason we save a lot of electricity, space, so many things. So the future trend of entrepreneur is probably staying home in his home and then becoming entrepreneur with only using IT, or definitely I could say using IT as the most component of his business. We should not use names, but most of the new companies in the world, they never had a hotel when they started a network, when they never had a vehicle when they want to have a kind of a company that deals with transportation, right? But they are the richest. Now, that's a new concept that is building up, and all is based on technology. So in the future, if you are talking of a young entrepreneur, obvious word it is coined there at the other side of the coin is technology.
And even when it comes to your example, without relating to the brand names, sometimes we used to replace our own services with their brand names. As an example, sometimes when it comes to transportation or accommodation, we used to use their particular names, but they don't have even a single property in their name, but successful entrepreneurs throughout the world. So young entrepreneurs, you can take this advice. Technology is the most vital aspect or a major component of your business, or rather your plethora might be technology. So when it comes to a business, agreements, contracts play an important role. So just explain, let us explain the ordinary contracts and agreements, and later on we will move on to the particular new trends. So simply, what's a contract or an agreement is?
Exactly. Now, basically, if you take a contract, you need an offer. I offer something to you, and you accept, and you need to pay a consideration to that. Now, these are the three elements. Offer, you accept, there is a consideration. There are so many other nitty-gritties, the pluses and minuses, negativities, so many intricacies, but this is the basic. So you offer, you accept, and this. But so a good example would be advertising is not offer. It's the invitation to treat, we call it. Right? So these are little intricacies that you have. So after seeing an invitation, I go and offer, and they accept it in the shop, right? So, and you pay your money. So offer, acceptance, and basically consideration are the three important factors in a forming of a contract, a valid contract, and it can be legal, technical, written, or even verbal.
Verbal.
Right, verbal. So it's difficult to prove, but verbal.
Verbal.
And I say, okay, let's meet tomorrow for something, even that's a contract.
Contract.
And a marriage is a valid contract because we sign.
Sign.
It's a contract.
Yes.
And also a very important factor is that it can be implied. Now, say I say something, and if you take it basically, I say something in the process, and you are silent, right, and do something accordingly.
Accordingly.
That means an implied contract.
Contract.
So this has variation of things. It can be expressed or implied, but definitely you must have offer, acceptance, and a consideration.
So when it comes to those three elements, young entrepreneurs and businessmen must be aware whether you have implied, and if you are dealing with some sort of a consideration, you must be very careful. There might be a contract established. So sir, when it comes to those contracts, when it comes to a specific act itself, so the ordinary contracts differ. It comes to emails and everything. So can you just explain a little bit on that?
In the year 2006, we came in Sri Lanka with the Electronic Transaction Act.
Right.
Now that brought in everything. I will first give you the exceptions later.
Yes.
Everything under earth, any transaction electronically, it's legally accepted. And that Electronic Transaction Act says if any law says in writing,
Right.
there are so many laws now before that, saying that it should be in writing, then electronic transaction is valid. So it is from year 2006, you can clearly say that electronic transaction has come into life in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Except, I'll give you exception because we need to have the exception.
Exceptions.
If it is a contract on immovable property like a land, then you can't have a electronic transaction.
Right.
Last will, I'm dying. Right? So I'm going to prescribe how it should be given. Now there it has to be written. Power of attorneys. So many things which is given under section 23 of the Electronic Transaction Act will give you basically all the knots there, excluding like what I mentioned above.
Right.
So that kind of a context, everything is valid.
Valid. Only emails or text messages?
Everything.
Everything.
Anything electronically done. Email, SMS. In the recent past, in the case in Sri Lanka, in the Commercial High Court, Justice Chitrasiri, in his High Court judgment, declared that SMS is a valid evidence.
Valid evidence.
Of course, there are certain formalities that you have to fulfill if you want to lead that kind of evidence in that kind of a context. You need to have basically give 45 days notice before showing that in evidence in court.
Evidence in court.
Other than that, basically SMS is valid in law.
Valid in law. Is it a contemporary evidence or something different?
Contemporary evidence is visual and basically visual and audio.
Audio.
A computer evidence is separate.
Separate thing.
Yes,
right.
that is under the Evidence Ordinance Special Provision Act, which came in 1975, Act number 22.
22. So the entrepreneurs and people who are watching these, you should concern that contemporary evidence, and you have to contrast between these two things. And when it comes to, and when it moves deeper in contracts and everything, sir, we can simply place a sign using carbon ink. And digital signatures come into play when these electronical means. Sometimes emails might be without signature. So what is the comment on signatures?
Yes, now signature is that we generally even use, say, I have to sign thousands of certificates, then we put a seal. Right. It's not my signature. It's like that you can create an artificial signature. But e-signature is something which is not visible to us. Right. In form. It is something that only a forensic person or IT expert can dissect and give opinion on.
Right.
But then that is very valid. E-signatures had been made valid by the Electronic Transaction Act. So it creates a new vista.
Right.
In basically in the electronic transactions.
So when it comes to a little bit in deeper, when it comes to payments and transactions, people use online banking and certain other banking services. So at least we know that they are acceptable means, and with these electronic transactions and everything, we know that they are acceptable and they can be used. And I'm going to move a little bit apart for checks. So the check transactions, how can you justify these transactions, sir?
Yeah, check transactions can be done in cash.
Cash.
So if it is in cash, you have to always carry cash. But that's how the check evolved.
Right.
Now, Charita, check are also dying because online banking is coming in. And that is what exactly we earlier said about electronic transactions. Where you do online transactions. So checks are not becoming not important in the future. But at the moment, checks are used because then it's a signature that matters, and what you write in words and the writing that matters, and the writing is predominant over the numbers. So like there are certain theories to ascertain the value of a check. And there is cross checks, and you can give it by name, and you can even give a cash check there that will give you basically the other person to get cash rather than working through account. So these are things that is they are in a check. So, but as an entrepreneur, the topic, we have to be very careful with checks. Why I say that is, it's an offense. I will just explain to you. Now, you come and I want to purchase something from you, and I give you a check. So let me say it is a dated check. I put the date today. Now what am I saying? I am telling you that the money is there in my bank. And therefore, I give you and take the good. Now what am I doing? There is no money in the bank. I am cheating you. I am cheating you if it's a dated check. Say it's a post-dated check. Sometimes most of the business entrepreneurs, with the understanding of the other party, gives a dated, post-dated check. That is means that is the date is
in the future date.
Now that, what am I saying? I am saying on that date, the money will be there. Of course, there is a little risk, and I expect a certain cash flow, and the cash flow did not come, then I have not cheated. If I can prove that it is so. But then there is a problem with debt recovery. There is something called Debt Recovery Act. These defenses can't be used. Defenses can't be used. So under the Debt Recovery Act, if you give a check and if there is no money, then there is a problem, because you know that you have to keep the money for at least 6 months. So you can't, it's a thing that entrepreneur, which I have found in my life, both as a entrepreneur, as a corporate director, and as a criminal lawyer. A lot of young entrepreneurs fall into trouble here, give checks or give checks of another person, and they finally end up in court as a accused. They are genuine. I mean, so expected cash flow did not come. So you have to be extra very careful if you are an entrepreneur for that, or forget anyone for that matter. Watching this, you have to be careful when you are giving a check, because you can end up not in civil but in a criminal court.
So when it comes to banking play with these current accounts and check issues, overdrafting, we have heard about ODs simply. So how can it be contrasted with any other legal scenarios?
Of course, overdraft is given by the bank. You do business over time, and when you build up a confidence with the banker, they give you an overdraft. Why is there overdraft? Because say you want to write a check, and there is then understanding of the bank is that you will pay up to that limit. There will always be an overdraft limit given by the bank. So there is, in that kind of a context, basically within the limit you can go. So but then they ask get a interest from you.
So within the limits they can play a little bit and to secure their funds, and
that's overdraft is there for you to not manipulate. I will not use that word manipulate, but to play safe, play within if you are really genuine, and if you know a system. Now don't just use an overdraft like a credit card. Credit card also is a good element. I can explain now.
Yes, better. So we can move.
If it is a credit card, young entrepreneurs, you must understand, is a very valuable tool. Because if you buy something now, you only have to pay about after about 1 month or even 45 days.
45, maximum 55 we can go.
Exactly. So you have that money in your hand. But moment you don't pay on that date, then you have to pay the interest. Big interest, huge interest.
Now day by day it's increasing.
So in that kind of a context, it's a very important that you pay on time. That is where a young entrepreneur must be very careful of the cash flow statement. Not only profit and loss account. The entrepreneur must always look at a cash flow statement. money you get at given point of time, whether there will be enough and sufficient fund to pay it. Right?
Especially on time.
Exactly. So imagine now, I'll just give a just example. Now today I buy something and I have money, of course.
Right.
What I will do is I will put it in a deposit and I'm getting interest. And at the exact date that I pay the credit card, that interest is with me. Right?
Yes.
So if you are very smart and if you are a good businessman, a genuine business, you can have a lot of with integrity, without doing any fraud, without getting into trouble, you can earn a profit too using the credit card. But there is, in 2006 again, with the electronic transaction, immediately after that, came a payment devices fraud act.
Yes. That's what we need to stress
exactly
next.
So that's very crucial.
Yes, exactly.
Because there is a separate law to handle with credit cards, and there is a huge presumptions that is there.
Right.
That is like if you have a payment devices fraud device in your hand, the court presumes that you are trying to commit an offense. Now that's not normally in criminal law, that when you possess say a gun or a knife that you are trying to commit murder. But here payment devices fraud act or the credit card has a major issue with that, because it is presumed that you are keeping that as this. And very interesting presumption is there, that is, if you don't pay the full amount and if you don't inform your change of address or the change of job to the bank, that means you are committing fraud. Now that is something very interesting presumption which is not normal law.
Not normal.
So you could see in credit card they have brought in a presumption that is not there in a normal law. That simply having a utensil in your hand, you are trying to commit an offense. Simply because you did not pay the full amount and you don't inform your change of address, that means you are cheating.
Right.
So this is very tricky. So you, as an entrepreneur, you need to have credit cards, but credit card has to be used very carefully, diligently, with very lot of care. And with using properly, you can earn, as we explained before, lot of profit and lot of money.
And even there's a mechanism, we can apply a fixed deposit and apply a credit card against that thing.
Exactly.
And we can pay little by little, but that should be on time, because even credit cards offer installment plans. We can use them wisely and earn profits without letting you in trouble, because the banks give you a certain opportunity to secure your funds and to pay little by little, but payments done on time must be done mandatorily.
So, and also, Charita, very interesting, as you said, if you do a good business with a bank and you are very, your company can link with giving customers a joint credit card benefits. Say you have a very good rapport with your bank, you get 30% discount and the half will be paid by the bank, half you will pay. So you can enhance your customer base, provided, I like to stress the point, being a banker and in the financial, that you must be very open with your bank. You have to be very open with your thing. Should not, even if you can't pay on time, just rush to the bank the following day, because otherwise you are cheating. The impression of the bank would be, this guy is trying to cheat. But if he comes and tell you genuinely to the bank, hey, I'm in trouble, I did not get my cash flow, or I have a problem here, always, I will repeat, always, any bank, any financial institutions will always support you. But if you try to evade, a lot of people try to evade the bank.
Then the following day I will go and do something. Yes.
Then the bank and the institutions get an impression, very clear impression, that you are trying to cheat.
That means always we have to be transparent and we have to disclose everything to the bank. Absolutely. And they will help us in trouble.
100%. Integrity, the trustworthiness is the key with anything in entrepreneur. You should never try a shortcut with your shareholders, your customers. Be even in a customer, if you make a mistake, go and say sorry. Right?
Yes.
That's very simple.
In a genuine manner.
Otherwise, it becomes even criminal. You can cheat, I mean, then you can get into just unnecessary trouble.
And so when it comes to the ordinary play, the entrepreneurs and young entrepreneurs and people who are starting a business, they are very reluctant and afraid to handle current accounts and those types of banking things. So can you give as a advice to those people?
As a person who have been almost 20 years in the financial institution as a director, The current account is a very important one, because that's where your check accounts goes in.
Right.
So any bank will take the current account into your, if you are asking for a loan or a support or whatever, they will look at the current account, and that's what exactly they will look at. Right, how you have worked out during the last period. So you must maintain a good current account. I mean, let's be honest, if you want to get a visa, what would the embassies ask for? Your current account statement or the credit card statement. That shows what you are. That shows you that you want to return back to this country, and that's why you get visas. So even, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you may have to travel abroad. Right? They will ask you very, very interesting question and very important question you raise. They will always ask for your current account or the credit card statement, and that shows your life. That shows your life, what you are doing, whether you are honest, and how to do that. And that is exactly what they determine to get you a visa. So as an entrepreneur, you may have to travel abroad for your business, because there may be a person, you may be exporting, because that's very crucial for our country. We need dollars. Yes, small people I know export like cinnamon and small things. They dry up fruits and send abroad. I know a lot of young entrepreneurs doing those. So we need to encourage that as well, given in the current context, in that kind of a situation.
And even if we had time, we can discuss about the credit score, the crib issues, and many things. Yes, and even sir, little bit comment on the crib, the Credit Information Bureau. Like, what is that?
Yeah, it's a Credit Information Bureau is what you have about, as the word denotes, credit.
Yes.
Whatever money that you have got as a loan, all that is reflected. And if you don't pay, every institution is supposed to report to the crib, so that say I have taken a loan from one particular bank, and the other bank want to know, I have gone to the other bank to get a credit card, they will ask for my crib report. They can access actually. So when they access to the crib, they can see my whole history. Now these are things that a young entrepreneur must always be careful, because crib is like your, in a criminal law we say, IRC card, that means your fingerprints. When you make an offense, you take fingerprints and go there, and the entire record of yours is there. And you call it IRC, means Island Reconvicted Criminal, based on your fingerprint report. So likewise, the entrepreneur's fingerprint report is the crib. Right. The whole history is there. Like as we discussed before, the current account or the bank statement. So which is very vital, as we said before, even to get our visa.
And so, like, as we are running out of time, let's concentrate a little bit on the Computer Crimes Act and the related surroundings for young entrepreneurs.
So in 1 year after that, in 2007, they brought in the Computer Crimes Act in Sri Lanka. Now that covers the entire gamut of computer crimes that can happen. You can invade, you can go into it, and do everything is covered under Computer Crimes Act. So therefore, the topic that we discussed today is technology, and in that kind of a context of technology, right, you need to look at computer crimes, because you may be just committing computer crimes even without being aware, right? So young entrepreneur must always look at Computer Crimes Act and see whether you are committing a crime under the Computer Crimes Act. And therefore, it is very vital that you don't commit those as a young entrepreneur.
So what sort of computer crimes that people tend to do, as per your experience in the field?
Through the computer, they go to other accounts, they go and disturb the other accounts. Right, and so many in the list, you access other accounts
and everything,
or other things using the computer, and you use computer to damage other people's character and things like that. So all that is covered under the Computer Crimes Act, which involves a computer. If you take it, anything that you can call yourself a crime or in a wrong, illegal thing, that is covered under the Computer Crimes Act.
And so, like, finally, one advice for our viewers, young entrepreneurs, when they are using technology, what is your advice for them?
Simply, as we discussed at the outset, the beginning, IT is the key for your entrepreneurship, and it is a vital tool. You can't be without it. So use it very wisely. Always look at the laws. Always never violate the law. Never be illegal, because shortcut, young person may think, I do a shortcut thing. That is kill your whole life.
No shortcuts.
No shortcuts.
Right. Okay, so thank you very much for giving us a pleasant discussion, and viewers, you might be very interesting about today's discipline, business and entrepreneurship. So ladies and gentlemen, tune into Channel I Law and Order, where we'll be discussing many more interesting topics in the future as well. President's Counsel Prashant Lal Alvis, sir, thank you very much for joining us with today's program. And ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned with Law and Order. Have a pleasant day till our next program.